It's Miss Burns. I am coming to you today with another video to help us go through the study guide. I do know that I'll be out on Thursday, January 23rd, so I'm making this originally for my A-Day classes, but if I happen to be out Wednesday on the 22nd for my B-Day classes because of jury duty, you'll be able to use this too. So let's just go through what our plan for the day is. So we're on day 52, and make sure if I am out that you're behaving for the sub. You know I have expectations of you guys, and I don't want to see any of your names individually listed because you are acting out. You know how to behave. You've been at the middle school long enough. You know what I expect. You know what to do. So just be smart, be mature about your choices. Your choices. Okay? All right. So let's talk about what we're doing today. So you're going to get out your study guide that you finished for homework, and you are going to watch the video and correct your answers. Make sure you use your headphones, but keep the volume low enough that you can hear the sub if he or she needs to ask you something or talk to you about something. I don't want any music, and I want you to stay on the video that I am making for you right now. Don't be going back and forth. The sub will be watching your screens. I don't want to get a note about that. Miss Sutton will handle laptop discipline if I get a note about it. Okay? So let's keep going. The study guide you're going to do and make corrections on your study guide. Pause the video and go through and see how we got the answers. If you're just writing down the answer, that does not help you at all. This is about showing you how to do this and the why that we're doing this so that you're learning the material. If you finish going through the study guide, which you will because it's not very long, you are going to go to the Edulastic Unit 4 practice test. If you finish that, you're going to go to Modules Unit 4 Extra Practice and work the Quizzes and Kahoots for extra practice. Let me show you what that looks like. So on Canvas, you're going to click on Modules, and you're going to scroll down to Unit 4, and then you're going to go to Unit 4 Extra Practice. And I do these extra practice for every unit that we've had. So if this is new to you guys, take advantage of it going forward. So I put some how-to videos. Sometimes I put like practice worksheets. Sometimes I do quizzes on it. All of this is extra stuff that we don't do in class, but some kids need extra practice or want extra practice. So this is where you would come for that. You can see at the bottom I have done 4 different quizzes, and then a Kahoot. So that's just extra practice. All right, so let's go back to our Canvas page for today under the announcements and keep going. Your homework is to study for your summative vocabulary test, which will be next class time for you guys. Bring your study guide, your completed study guide, and flashcards so you can get bonus points. There is 0 reason you guys shouldn't get bonus points for your study guide because I'm making you a video and you have time in class to do this. 0 reasons for I'm giving you summative points. You just have to write stuff down that I'm telling you the answers to. So, you know I don't do extra credit. This is your chance. I'm giving you these points. Bring your study guide next time. Put it in your binder so you'll know where it is and you can bring it back on the test day. Also, do the same thing with your flashcards. Okay, the last thing I'll tell you is the next time you'll have the vocab test, and the time after that you'll have the unit test, which is when your practice test is due. I'm giving y'all way more class time to get this stuff handled, so handle it. All right, so let's go over the study guide. So we're on the Unit 4 Expressions study guide, and again, make sure to follow along to see how to work each problem and check your answers. Make corrections on your study guide. You're still going to turn in your fully completed study guide and flashcards on the vocab test day, which is next time, remember, to get your bonus points. All right, so let's do some problems. All right, the instructions for number 1 and 2 say write or formulate, that's a synonym for write, the following expression: 5 less than 1/3 of a number. Remember, when you are writing algebraic expressions, we read them from left to right, except when you see the words than and from, because those are lasso words, which means you will switch the order. Instead of left to right, you'll be going right to left. All right, so the other key word that I need to point out, which is so very important in algebra, is the word of. So important. That means times. So 1/3 times a number. What number? No clue. We have no clue. So that's where we're going to put our variable. So if we put all that together and lasso that 5 less than, it would look like this: 1/3 x minus 5. So we're doing 1/3 times x. Notice there's no sign in between the 1/3 and the x because we are not in elementary anymore. You guys know that. And then we're taking away 5 from that. All right, good. 1b, solve if the variable equals 7. So that says if we substitute 7 in for this x right here, what do we get? So that would look like this: 1/3, and then 7 we're putting in parentheses because we need to remind ourselves that this is going to be multiplied together. When you are multiplying a number with a fraction, we need both of these to be fractions, so let's just go ahead and put that 7/1. And now we just simply multiply our numerators, 1 times 7, and then multiply our denominators, 3 times 1, which gives us 7/3 minus 5. And I just went ahead and put this 5/1 because you know that if this is a fraction, this needs to be a fraction. All right, when you're adding or subtracting fractions, what do you have to have? Common denominator. Common denominator, right. So let's make 3 our denominator. And this is what we have going on. It's 5/1 turned to 15/3. Now we're going to just subtract straight across. 7 minus 15 gives you -8. And then our denominator stays the same. So -8/3 is our final answer. Okay. Let's just start getting the habit of just circling or squaring your answers. Let's just start it now. All right, 2A. A farm charges $1.75 for each pound of strawberries picked and $2 for a basket to hold the strawberries. Write an algebraic expression to show the total cost of picking P pounds of strawberries. All right, so we've got 2 different numbers in this problem: the 1.75 for each pound of strawberries and $2 for a basket. Do we know how many pounds of strawberries? No, and it actually even tells us we're going to use the variable P to stand for pounds of strawberries. So that tells us that we are going to have 1.75 P plus 2. Now the 2 does not have a variable with it because that's $2 for just the basket itself. We don't need to know how many baskets it is. That's a constant number that is not going to change, so no variable with that. Okay? All right, so it says solve if, I think it says M equals 5, just typo. It should be solve if P equals 5 because we're using the variable P in this expression. So that just means put 5 in the place of P and solve. It would look like this: 1.75 parentheses 5 plus 2. This is a calculator problem at this point. Multiply 1.75 times 5 plus 2 gives you 10.75 for your final answer. sad looking oval. My bad, guys. Well, you know. I got to do it. I'm sorry. I just can't move on without doing it. Yes, we got it. All right, let's move forward. Use the table below to complete 3A through 3B. And then we have a table talking about haircut and shampoos and how they charge different for women and men and how much they charge for each of those items. 3A asks us to write an expression in the simplest form that represents the cost of W women getting a haircut and a shampoo. So we're talking about women getting a haircut and a shampoo. So we're only talking about this information right here. It's not that we don't care about the men, but in this problem, we don't. So we're talking about W women, because we don't know how many, and we're going to represent the haircut number here, which was $25, plus the shampoo cost, which is $10 right here. Now that's how we would set this up. But if you go back to the question, it says in simplest form. So let's keep going. So if you have W and 25 together, that's just distributive property. Don't let that bother you. And you get 25W plus W times 10 is 10W. Combine your like terms and you get 35W. So that is the expression in simplest form that tells us how much it costs for women to get a haircut and a shampoo. In real life, you could have done this in your head super easy, but I'm showing you the algebraic way. Because in this next part, it says, use the expression from part A to solve how much it would cost 5 women to receive a haircut and a shampoo. So we start with our 35W that we figured out from above, and then in the place of W, we now know how many women we're talking about, and we're talking about 5 women. So we're going to put this 5 in the place of W. Make sure that it's in parentheses because that tells you that we need to multiply these numbers. And when you do, you get 175. So what that is saying is it cost $175 if 5 women all together get their hair cut and shampooed. Now, in real life, oh my gosh, how cheap, that would be ridiculously cheap. It's way more than that, just if you wanted to know. All right, so let's go to number 4. David used the expression below to find the cost of renting a boat for H hours. Okay, so here's the expression. 85.99 H for the number of hours plus 45. So all this is asking us to do on part A is what if H is equal to 4? That's what that's saying. So we would put a 4 into this variable right here and solve the problem. So we have just replaced that. So at this point, we're going to multiply 85.99 times 4, get your answer, and then add 45 to it. So at the very end, you will end up getting 388.96. That's how much it cost to rent a boat for 4 hours. I have no clue if that's even realistic. I have never rented a boat now that I think about it. Maybe y'all will know. Got some fishermen out there. Y'all can tell me someday. Okay, so let's keep going. Number 5. Simplify the expressions on this page. And we've got D minus 0.18D minus 0.15D minus 0.22D. Lucky us that all 4 of these terms are like terms. We've got this term, this, that 4 terms. So one thing we do want to add in, what's the coefficient in front of this D? make sure that you add a 1 right there. If not, then you're going to forget that you need to include that in your calculator when you say 1 minus this number, minus this number, minus this number. When you do that, you should get 0.45D as your final answer. Let's just be consistent and we'll put a circle around it. How did that even happen? I have no idea. Let's change it. What? Guys, I'm sorry. This is crazy. There. No. There we go. All right. Question 6. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4 terms, but they don't all have the variable m with them. So let's separate them out. Let's circle our variable terms. Make sure you circle that sign in front. And then we're going to underline our constant terms. Now, if we rearrange these terms and start grouping them together, it would look like this. 5/8 m minus 3/8 m plus 9 minus 15. When we rearrange these to group these with our like terms together, remember that's the associative property. Lucky for us, when we get ready to combine these variable terms, they both have the denominator of 8, so that's going to be a very, very easy problem for us. And when we subtract that, we would get 2/8 m minus 6 when we subtract our constants. 9 minus 15. That's how we get minus 6. Now, I'm not going to count off if you leave it as this. However, it would be a very good math practice to keep going and simplify that fraction to 1/4 m minus 6. 2/8 simplifies to 1/4 m. All right, so let's put a circle around that. And we're done. All right, number 7. We've got 4 different terms, and the 6x and the plus 4.5 don't really have anything going on. We don't need to work with those yet. But the expression at the end has a minus sign in front of a set of terms in parentheses. That should be a clue for you guys to distribute this negative sign to all the terms in the parentheses. Okay? So when you do that, it ends up looking like this. So we have distributed this negative to the 32x, so it's minus 32x. And I've distributed this negative to the negative 14. Do you see how negative and negative are both going to be in front of the 14? So that's showing you that right here. I just rearranged these and grouped them by like terms as I wrote this first line right here. Okay. Remember, little math magicians, when you have subtract a negative right here, and there's no number in between, that becomes a positive. Writing out this part right here is so vital for you guys to do, because if you try to do that in your head, you're going to forget that that turned into a positive 14. Okay? And you're going to it's not going to be right. You're not going to get partial credit for that, because that is a very, very important concept you need to know. At this point, you're just combining your like terms. 6x minus 32x gives you negative 26x plus 18.5 when you combine your constants. And at this point, we are done, and we're just going to put a circle around our answer, or a square, whatever, something to highlight that that's your answer. All right, number 8. You've got a number right outside a set of terms in parentheses. That is the distributive property, right? So you are going to say negative 4.3 times 9x, and then negative 4.3 times negative 2.3. And then at the very end of your problem, you're going to just bring this plus 2.21 down because there's nothing going on here. There's nothing for it to multiply or distribute by, so that's just going to come down. So it would look like this. Negative, and you get this. Negative, negative, or negative minus. Remember, negative and minus are interchangeable, but we've got two of these signs, so I'm putting them right here. You guys know that that means plus. And at this point, it is about combining your like terms, and you would get negative 38.7x plus 12.1. And that is your final answer. Raise your hand if you got it right. Just kidding, don't, because I'm not there to see. Just seeing if you were paying attention. All right, number 9. We've got another, well, a distributive property problem, but it has a fraction. But don't let that freak you out because I tried to use simpler numbers so that you could certainly do this in your head, but don't. Distributive property means you're going to say negative 1/2 times 6g, negative 1/2 times negative 4, and negative 1/2 times 2g. Now, when I multiply this out and show you this next step, I'm going to go ahead and put all of these whole numbers over 1. Since I'm going to multiply by the fraction negative 1/2, I'm going to it just makes it easier to see. So it's going to look like that. So you've got the negative 1/2 times 6 over 1 and the g, don't forget that, minus 1/2, because it's the negative 1/2, and a negative 4 over 1. Then you've got the negative 1/2 again that I put right here, and then this is 2 over 1, and it does not have a negative with it, so I'm just putting it 2 over 1, and then the g is with that term. Okay. Now, when we start multiplying this out, you multiply your numerators over your denominators, and then look at your sign afterwards. So we have one negative sign here, so we know our fraction is going to be negative. Negative 6 over 2g. Now here, you've got a negative and a negative. That gives us a positive, so I'm going to go ahead and put that plus sign there. And then multiply your actual numbers, and you get 4 over 2. All right, in the last term, you've just got one negative or minus sign, one of these signs. So that's going to be the sign that stays with it. And when you multiply the actual fraction numbers, you get 2 over 2g. All right, clean it up. Negative 6 over 2 is just negative 3g. Plus 4 over 2 is just 2. Minus 2 over 2 is 1g. I just keep the 1g with it because when you combine your like terms for this last step, there's a term and there's a term. Here's your constant. Combine your like terms, you get negative 4g plus 2. And that is our final answer. Okay. Number 10, negative 3/5 times these three terms inside these parentheses. Just like the last problem. You're distributing the negative 3/5 to all three parts inside these parentheses, inside this set of parentheses. So you would have a negative 3/5 times negative 8 over 1. You've got a negative 3/5 times 5 over 9x. And you've got the negative 3/5 times the negative 3 over 1. Okay, take a second to write that down if you need to. Pause the video because that's very important, that especially with a kind of a complex expression like this, that you get all these details right. All right, so multiply it out. We know that we're going to have a negative, negative, a positive here, a negative here, and then this last term, look, a negative, negative, make a positive there. So we have the positive, the negative, the positive. And we multiplied our fractions out. Then we're going to combine our like terms. Here's our variable term. We always start there. Oh, wait, that's our only variable term. So here's our constant. Here's our constant. I rearranged them and wrote them down so you could see them. There's your negative 15/45 x plus your two constants. Lucky for us, our constants both have the same denominator, which is going to make it easy to just add straight across and get negative 15/45 x plus 33/5. That's fine to leave the answer, but mathematically, for those of you who want to be perfect on this and do best practices, you need to simplify this fraction right here, and you get negative 1/3 x plus 33/5. That's the best answer. This I wouldn't count all four, but again, best practices wants you to write it like I've circled it. Because especially since we've already had the fraction unit and simplification is something you should know, but it's not necessarily what we're teaching this unit, so I want to make sure you understand the distributive property even more so right now. Both is what you should do to be the best math student. All right, let's keep going. Number 11. All right, so let's just look at our problem. We've got an expression plus another expression. That means we don't need to distribute anything like a negative sign. Like our next problem, we're going to have to distribute this negative sign. But this one is going to be pretty straightforward. So we can easily combine our like terms. We've got a variable term here and a variable term here. And then we're going to have a constant term here and a constant here. Combine those and you get 1.3c minus 4.7. Now, what's your next step? Excellent. Your next step was to put a circle or square around it because that's your answer. Can't go any farther because this is a variable term and this is a constant term, and you cannot combine those. Good. All right, number 12. We already said just a second ago that this is going to be a little different because we need to distribute this negative sign to all of the terms in the parentheses. Okay, this first expression does not have anything in front of the parentheses, so there's nothing here to multiply by. There's nothing to do with this expression. There's nothing that we need to do. So we're going to simply just bring those first three terms down. So here's what it would look like. 6x minus 2y minus 5. Now when we get into distributing, we've got the negative negative in front of the 5. So I've just brought that down. And then we had to have this negative and then 9y. So negative 9y. And then we have this negative that's going with this negative in front of the 8x. So you can see that right here. All right, if we clean it up a little bit, the only thing I've changed on this next line is to change the negative negative to a positive here and here. All right. This should be so straightforward to you now that I'm going to say, what do you do next? And you're going to say, I got it. I'm going to circle my like terms. So we start with the variable terms that are alike, and since we have the x's and the y's, we start with the x's because they come first alphabetically. And then I'm going to switch over to do a square around my y terms just so I can distinguish between the x's and the y's, just so we don't accidentally add those together. And then the last thing I do is I underline my constants to show that those are like terms with each other. All right, so when we combine that, we get 14x minus 11y plus 0. Miss Burns, do I have to really put plus 0? No, dear child, you do not have to. It's just a good practice to do that so that I will know that you haven't forgotten that you had constants in your problem and that you actually got 0 when you combined this negative 5 plus 5. Either way, it's the correct answer. Later on, when you get super advanced in math, you will know that you don't need to put that, but right now, for the next 2 or 3 years, it's really a good idea that you do that until you understand way farther in your math career that it's not necessary. But those are your 2 answer choices that I would accept. I try to be flexible, you know, guys, because there's always more than one way to solve a math problem. Let's look at number 13. We're still analyzing equivalent expressions. Hal earns N dollars per hour. Next month, he will receive a 2% raise in pay per hour. Way to go, Hal. The expression N plus 0.02N is one way to represent Hal's pay per hour after the raise. Write an equivalent simplified expression that will represent his pay per hour after the raise. Okay, so we start with the expression they gave us, N plus 0.2N. N is what Hal made at the beginning. It tells us that. That's what he started with before any of his good news about getting a raise happened. He just made plain old N. But then we added his raise of this 0.02N. All they're asking us to do is combine our like terms there. But you guys need to remember that his original pay right here was 1N because it had that understood 1 as the coefficient in front of this number. When you combine those, you get 1.02N. That's as far as you can go. That represents his pay after the raise, 1.02N. Okay? Almost there. All right, Miss Smith has a rectangular garden. The length of the garden can be represented by 4x minus 7. The width of the garden is 6 feet long. Write and simplify an expression that can be used to find the area of Miss Smith's garden. I don't care how old I get, and I know some of y'all think I'm a dinosaur. It doesn't hurt my feelings because it's not too far from the truth. But as old, as many years as I've done this, I still always start by drawing a picture if I can. It makes life so much easier, guys. So, ta-da! I drew you a picture. So we knew that this was going to be a rectangle because it tells us, and we know that the length in a rectangle is going to be your longer side and your width is your shorter side, and then we just fill in that information. It tells us the length is 4x minus 7 right here. It tells us the width is 6, and then it asks us to write an expression to find the area. You guys should know for the rest of your life that area is always width times length or length times width, same. Okay? Fill in your answers at this point. Fill in your numbers at this point. What is the width? We just said that it was 6. What is the length? 4x minus 7. We put the 4x minus 7 in parentheses because the width is being multiplied by the length. The width is being multiplied by the length. And the length is this whole expression, not just one of these numbers. Do not let this bother you. What do you do now? Multiply the 6 times both terms in the parentheses, and you get 24x minus 42. Now what? box around your answer, and that's as far as you can go. Because this has an x, this doesn't. This is a coefficient and a variable. This is a constant. They're not like terms. You can't combine them. Please don't try to. Don't do it. Don't let your pencil do it to you. Number 15, Andrew bought a present for his wife. He bought a bouquet of flowers for $25, chocolates for $8.99, and balloons that were $1.20 each. He spent a total of $42.08. Choose all the expressions that could be used to show the total cost no matter how many balloons he decided to buy. Choose all. That is a hint that you're going to have more than one correct answer over here. All right, so let's just break this down into just realistic talk, not even like math formulas. What are the three things he bought? He bought flowers and chocolate and balloons. We know exactly how many flowers he bought or how much the flowers cost. We know exactly how much he spent on chocolate. We don't know how much he spent on balloons, but we do have a little clue that they were $1.20 each. But we're just really not sure yet how many balloons he bought. Next unit, in Unit 5, we will set that up like an equation and solve it, and we'll be able to tell you exactly how many. But for now, let's fill in what we know. $25 for flowers plus $8.99 for chocolate plus $120B. We put a variable beside the 1.20 because, again, we don't know how many balloons he bought. That is the number, that is the amount, that is the unknown, that is the number that could vary. And so that's why this has a variable by it. How did I know to use the letter B? It didn't tell me in the problem, but I knew to use this when I was writing this out for you guys because I looked at the answer choices. And that's the variable they used. B for balloons. They could have used an X. That's just what they chose to use. The next part of this is work this out. So we would go and see if we have any variable terms. We sure do right there. But that's the only one that we have when we're going to combine these like terms. We have this constant plus this constant, so I'm underlining those. If I combine those like terms, if I combine my constants, I get 33.99 plus 1.20b. Now, you guys know that I would rewrite this and I would say 1.20b plus 33.99. That's how I would choose to give my answer because I always say it's a good habit to get into to write your variable term first. But it doesn't have to be. This is one of those commutative property things that this plus this is the same as this plus this. So sometimes when you're looking at your answer choices, you might have to reverse the order of these to see what works for you. So let's see. Look at A, our answer choice, 25 plus 8.9. Well, that's got to be one answer choice because that's exactly how we set up the problem. All right, let's look at this next one, 25b plus 8.9. So they put the variable b with everything, but that doesn't really make sense because B stands for balloons, and you don't put this B for balloons with the flower cost, so no. All right, let's look at the next one. 33.99 plus 1.20b, yep. When we simplified our like terms, or combined our like terms, we got that expression. The last one, 35.19b, is not a possibility because the only way this could happen is if both of these numbers had the variable b with it, and you could combine those. And they don't, so that is not a possible answer choice. So A and C, both are possible answer choices. Okay, so now we've gone through the fairly short study guide. Hopefully this made sense to you. If some of the problems didn't, please go back and rework them and look at the study guide video again. Email me. I know I told you earlier I'm not going to have Zero Block a lot this week, so email me if you have some questions. I don't mind answering emails as soon as I get home at the end of the day from either the meeting or the jury duty stuff where I can't have my phone. So, by the way, the struggle is for real, and this is very good for me to see how stressful you guys might be without your cell phone, kind of being in the dark. It is quite stressful. That don't mean I'm changing any rules. I'm just saying I'm relating to you guys. So now, after your study guide, let's go back to Canvas and see what you're about to do. Watch the video. Okay, now you're going to do the Edulastic practice test. When you finish with that, if you finish with that, you're going to go to the modules and do some extra practice. You do not have free time. Use this. This means you don't have to do a lot of extra work at home if you're using this time wisely now. So be smart, guys. Make me proud. I would love to get a good note back from the sub. That would be very rewarding for you guys if that happened. Good idea. All right. See you soon, guys. Bye-bye.